is here, let's gather round and travel in our minds so far and free to once upon a time, that's where things happen. Come along with me and see. Come on, everybody, gather round. Did you ever feel so sad that nothing would make you laugh? I mean, not tickling, not silly stories, not goofy faces, nothing. Well, today's story is about a princess who never laughed. I mean, sure, you and I have times when we don't feel very much like laughing, but this girl never laughed. Now, what would you have done to make her laugh? Would you have walked up to her and said, "Excuse me, Your Majesty"? Nothing. She'd have just looked at you. Or you could have tried tickling her. Or telling her a silly story? Nothing. She had a face that looked like this. Now, her father, the king, was very upset because he loved the princess very much. And he knew that one of the nicest sounds in the world is the sound of laughter. But in the kingdom of mirth, there was only the sound of silence. Now, what does a chicken have to do with what I was talking about?
What is a what?
A chicken?
What is a what?
Not a chicken?
It's not a chicken.
Well, a duck. A goose, okay.
Yes.
What does a goose have to do with what I was saying?
Well, you'll just have to listen to the story to find that out. Because it has everything to do.
Everything to do.
Everything to do with this story. Yeah, it's very special.
Well, let's see.
You'd really be surprised. There you are. Now, why don't we find out?
Okay. Across the Palathian Mountains and through the forest of gnomes, there nestled the small kingdom of Mirth. Now, everyone in Mirth was born happy and remained happy for all the years to come. That is, except for the king's daughter, Solemma. Princess Solemma was born with a frown. It remained on her face always. She frowned at everything. She frowned at her clothes. She frowned at her food. She frowned at her father, King Lothar, and she frowned at Gaylord, her pet poodle. She even frowned at herself in the mirror. Nothing could make her smile. King Lothar said to his wife, Queen Mary, one day, "Do you realize that Solemma is 18 years old and she's never smiled in all these years?" "Well, I know that, darling. Not even little Gaylord can please her. He tries so hard, and all she does is frown. I get so tired of looking at her long face. I don't know what to do. She sighs and whimpers at everything all day long." "Well, it's time we did something. I've talked with my advisors, and they have suggested a special party. All the men from far and near should be invited to the castle to entertain our Solemma. The one who can make her laugh may have her hand in marriage." "That sounds like a wonderful idea. I would give anything to see her smile just once. There must be someone somewhere who can amuse her. We must get out the invitations right away." The very next day, invitations went out across the land to all the young men suitable for a princess. The maids and the servants set about making cakes and fancy party favors, and the castle ballroom was decorated in rainbows of silk and satin. Musicians were hired to play happy music. On the day of the party, young men began arriving by the dozens, each one certain that he could make Solemma laugh. The first to try was the Earl of Windtop. He bowed before the Princess Solemma and took her hand. "What can you do?" "Your Grace, I can wiggle my ears, cross my eyes, and say the creed of the elves backwards." "Let's see." With that, the Earl's face flew into a fury of activity. "Seriafni eviliod tod theodoho eno detsa owe reven sisigam." "That makes me want to cry." "What? It makes everyone else laugh every time." The Earl backed away and was replaced by the Duke of Rumble. "What can you do?" Before Solemma could say anything more, the Duke began to tie himself into a knot. He wrapped his left leg around his neck. He grabbed his foot with his right hand, turned himself through his right leg, and smiled at the princess upside down. Everyone at the party laughed, but not the princess. "You look silly." "Will I enjoy myself?" said the Duke, and he rolled away. "This is so boring. The next act had better be good." The next act was the Mace of Melee. He stepped proudly up to the Princess Sulema. "Your Grace, I dance the skittish." Now, the skittish is an ancient dance known only to the Milesians. The entire dance is done on one foot with the other held forward, toes pointed. The musicians struck up a lively tune, and the mace danced around the hall, much like one who is trapped on a bed of hot coals. And the final step of the skittish was a rapid twirl, and the mace twirled like a top before the princess. "Stop, stop, please, you're making me dizzy." The mace simply twirled out of the ballroom to the laughter of everyone but the princess. On and on it went, dukes, earls, princes, and maces trying to bring even a smile to Sulema's face, but every single one failed. At the party's end, the princess sighed and fell back onto her pillows. "I have never been so bored in my entire life." She frowned at her hands and called for a drink of water. Now, deep within the forest of the gnomes lived an old woodcutter. He had a young son whom everyone called a simpleton because he did not appear to be very smart. The simpleton had never heard of Princess Sulema or King Lothar or Queen Mary. He merely went into the forest every day to cut wood for his mother and father. One day, the boy's mother sent him off to the forest, giving him a pancake and a jug of water. And as usual, the simpleton took his axe and his lunch bag and set off into the forest. But this day, something strange happened. As the simpleton entered the darkest part of the forest, a little gray man jumped from behind a tree. "Share with me your food and drink, for I am hungry and thirsty." Well, the simpleton, being a kind and gentle boy, did as the old man asked. No sooner did the little man touch the pancake than it turned into a chocolate layer cake. And when he poured the water, it became delicious ale. The simpleton could not believe his eyes. Never had he tasted anything so good as the cake and the ale. When they had finished, the old man said, "Because you have shared your simple fare with me, I shall now share something with you. Go to that old stump beside the path there and chop away the top. In it you will find your future." And the man disappeared. The simpleton went to the stump and chopped away the top. He reached inside and pulled out a golden goose. Well, look at this. A goose of pure gold. Oh, Mother and Father will certainly be pleased when they see this. He put the goose under his arm and started out for home. Since he had gone deep into the forest, the simpleton had to stop at an inn overnight before he could continue homeward. When he entered the inn, the innkeeper's oldest daughter spied the golden goose. "I'll have one of those feathers." And she rushed up to pluck a golden feather from the goose's tail. No sooner did she touch the goose than her hand stuck fast. She called to her younger sister to help pull her loose, but when the sister touched her, she too became stuck. They both began to cry for help. The youngest sister, hearing them crying, rushed in, and she too became stuck. All night, the three girls remained there stuck fast while the simpleton slept. They were furious. The next morning, the simpleton took the goose under his arm and started for home. Behind him were the three girls, stuck together in a line. Down the street they marched like a small parade. As they passed the schoolmaster's home, he saw the three girls following the simpleton and shouted, "You girls know better than to chase boys when you should be on your way to school. Turn around this minute." When the girls did not obey, the schoolmaster rushed out and grabbed the youngest sister by the shoulders. And he too became stuck and was forced to join the parade. When the preacher saw the schoolmaster following the girls, he shouted, "Come back or we'll have no school today." He rushed out to grab the schoolmaster and he became stuck. The preacher was forced to join the parade. And when the parade passed the bride's house, she saw the preacher. "Oh, come back, please. You're supposed to marry me to my loved one today. Without a preacher, my wedding cannot go on. Please come back." When the preacher did not heed, the bride ran after him and grabbed his coattail. And she became stuck and was forced to join the parade. Well, soon they passed the groom's house. He saw his bride. "Oh, my dearest, please don't run away. We are supposed to be married today." He rushed out and grabbed her veil, and he too became stuck. By the time the parade reached the town, it had grown to hundreds, all stuck. There were wheat choppers and carpenters and shoemakers. Everyone who had touched the unhappy travelers had become stuck. Now, in the middle of town sat King Lothar's castle, and Princess Solema just happened to be looking out the window. Well, she heard a loud commotion. She pulled back the curtain to have a look. She couldn't believe her eyes. There was a boy with a golden goose, and behind him were hundreds of silly-looking people, all stuck together. It was funny. Way down deep in her heart, a giggle started. It bubbled up and up and up, and then out it came, a small little laugh, and then another, and she couldn't help it. Another giggle, and then another, until the frown turned into a grin. She tried to stop the laughter, but she could not. She laughed and laughed and laughed. In rushed King Lothar and Queen Mary. They couldn't believe it. Solema was laughing. "Who made you laugh? Who?" "The boy, see there, the boy. A golden goose, he is wonderful." "Well, have the boy brought in at once, immediately." When the simpleton stood before the king, he didn't seem very well fit for a princess. "You are only a woodcutter's son, hardly a match for my daughter. You may have her for your wife, but only after you have brought me a man who can drink a cellar of ale." The simpleton thought, that is impossible. No man can drink a whole cellar full of ale. The only place he could think to look for such a person was in the forest where he'd met the little magic man. He went there and was surprised to find a huge giant sitting under the tree. Me thirsty. Me drink cellar of ale." "Wish no more. Come with me." The giant went with the simpleton to the king's castle, where he drank all the ale in the king's cellar and even asked for more. The king was very impressed. "Well, you found a man who could drink a cellar full of ale. But now you must find a man who can eat a cake as big as my castle. Then you may marry my daughter." Well, the poor simpleton left on his new errand. The only place he knew was, once again, the special tree where he met the little magic man. He returned there to find an even bigger giant who was groaning. "I'm so hungry. I could eat cake big as mountain." "Say no more. Follow me." The giant followed the simpleton back to the castle, where the king's bakery had cooked an enormous cake of 1,000 layers. The giant ate it in 3 minutes and asked for more. The king could not hold out any longer. He laughed. "My dear boy, please come and be my son. Marry my daughter. You have brought laughter to her and to all of us indeed. There is no greater gift than happiness." So the simpleton and Solema were married, and no one has frowned in the kingdom of mirth since that day. Story time is done, and so goodbye, until it's time to gather round again. It's kind of hard to wait, but we will try, and hope that we will see you then.